I am delighted to welcome everyone to the Asia Pacific launch of the World Green Building Council Health and Wellbeing Framework. My name is Sundaresan Raghupathy. You can call me Raghu. I will be the host of today's event in my role as the chair of WorldGBC's Asia Pacific Regional Network. We have a rich and diverse group of green building councils across this region who are part of the global network of World Green Building Council and whom I am honored to represent as chair. We are here together today to better understand what the growth opportunities are across Asia Pacific when it comes to health and well-being in the built environment, and how the new WorldGBC Health and Wellbeing Framework might aid us in our work to create better places for people. In a moment, I will be handing over to Catriona Brady, the head of Better Places for People at the World Green Building Council, to give an overview of the framework. Many of you have attended the global launch on November 4th this year, a week before. Following Catriona, we will hear from two of the GBCs in the region who played a very active role in the development of the framework, GBC Australia and India GBC. They will reflect on the new era for health and well-being. After that, we will hear some insights from professionals across the region who will answer few questions regarding health and well-being in this part of the world. And we will end with few closing remarks from Cary, the co-chair of the World Green Building Council Asia Pacific Network. We also have a couple of pools that will launch between the presentations to get some feedback from all of you. This will actively engage you also. If you have questions, please post them in the chat box. While we will not be able to answer them during the event itself, we'll be happy to follow up with you afterwards. So, without further ado, I now welcome Catriona Brady, Head of Better Places for People at the WorldGBC, to introduce the framework. Over to you, Catriona.
Thank you, Raghu. And hello, everyone. My name is Catriona Brady, and it's my great pleasure to be able to join you today at the Asia Pacific regional launch of WorldGBC's Health and Wellbeing Framework. I run the Better Places for People project at the World Green Building Council, and I'm delighted to tell you about the work we've been doing over the last 2 years to create this new framework for health and well-being. Next slide, please. My name is Catriona Brady. I'm head of Better Places for People and the strategic planning lead at the World Green Building Council. Next slide, please. The World Green Building Council is a global network of NGOs, of national green building councils around the world dedicated to sustainability in the built environment. Our network is across all regions of the world and represents around 70 national green building councils working towards the UN Goals for Sustainable Development and the Paris Agreement. Next slide, please. The three areas that we strategically focus around are three impact areas, which are aligned to the SDGs, as you can see on my slides, are climate action, resources and circularity, and health and well-being. And health and well-being is the area that I focus on at WorldGBC, that I run through a global project called Better Places for People. I have the privilege of working closely with many of the green building councils in the Asia Pacific region, and it's been my pleasure to collaborate with them all in great detail on this piece of work over the last few years. Next slide, please. As you'll see, the WorldGBC network working on health and well-being is expansive. There are over 30 green building councils on the steering committee of Better Places for People. You can see the logos of the Asia Pacific GBC in the bottom right corner. And these are the organizations with whom we've been working collaboratively to re-scope health and well-being in the built environment, as I'll tell you about for the next few minutes, and we'll discuss more through today's launch event. Next slide, please. I'm delighted to be able to launch today the WorldGBC's Health and Wellbeing Framework, which is hinged around 6 principles for a healthy, sustainable built environment that you can see in the graphic. You can download the framework and you can look at the interactive resource list via the link on screen, worldgbc.org/health/framework. Next slide, please. But I'd like to give you a brief overview, some background of why we did this work, an overview of the framework, and to talk through the principles and the calls to action they provide. Next slide. So as I said, I have the pleasure of working with a truly global steering committee. And this group of green building councils on the steering committee are united by the North Star goals, those 3 impact areas I showed you of climate action, resources and circularity, and health and well-being, which are aligned, as I said, to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We recognized that the industry is taking this shift, this transition away from looking at just green buildings by themselves into looking at sustainability more broadly, looking at it more holistically. And we felt that our work on health also had to reflect this. And so we wanted to link the 3 pillars of sustainability, the economic indicators of health and also the environmental indicators of health, together into our work around health and well-being for this sector. We wanted to create something that would equip a global audience with high-level information. We want this to be useful for education, for advocacy, and to lead into certifications, whether they're for health and well-being or for sustainability more generally. Next slide, please. We have developed the content of this framework through an extensive consultation with an advisory committee that has been put together on top of the steering committee, which has featured India and Australia Green Building Council working very closely together to brainstorm ideas behind this new definition of health and well-being. And what we recognized is that health and well-being for too long has focused only on the occupants of the building. We recognize that our sector has the ability to directly and indirectly impact people's health at all stages of the building life cycle, from the people involved in the mining of the materials that go into the very blocks and foundations of our building, to people working in construction, to people living in the surrounding community or are involved at end of life stage, or even those people impacted by the pollution and waste generated by buildings or the construction sector on the other side of the world. Next slide, please. And so a core outcome for us was realizing that we needed to bring the equity conversation together with our work on health. Our conversation showed that the sector needed to mobilize to look not just at the people within buildings, but all people and their health, well-being and quality of life that our sector touches. Looking at equity and health for everyone, everywhere. Next slide, please. So now let me tell you about the framework and how it can be used. Next slide. The framework is an interactive online resource. It's a set of comprehensive global guidelines for driving healthy and equitable buildings for everyone, everywhere. It takes this whole life cycle approach to health and well-being in the built environment, and it's presented in 2 ways. Next slide, please. As well as being a full resource available through the link you can see on the screen that has not only a research summary of each of the principles and sub-principles within, it has outcomes, strategies divided into different stages of the life cycle, benchmarks, and a resource list that has been compiled through the work of the Green Building Council network, their members, and our public and private sector partners, and major stakeholders, including the UN and the World Health Organization. This is summarized inside an executive report as well, which is much more visual, and we're working with many of the Green Building Councils to translate and share it, including China GBC, who are currently translating it into Mandarin. Next slide, please. The framework can be used in a number of ways, and we recognize the diversity of the Green Building Council network globally, so we wanted to create a tool that is flexible enough to be useful for people all over the world. That could be as a communications tool, as a checklist for operational organizations or design teams to analyze whether there are any areas of health and well-being that aren't currently being considered, as a way to enhance current certifications or to promote certifications to the industry. And we see the framework as a stepping stone for people to begin their journey of learning about health and well-being and sustainability, and hopefully progress onto taking on that third-party performance-based verification of their building or portfolio. And then, of course, the framework is ultimately an educational resource. There is a huge volume of information within it. Within the online version, there's 20,000 words of content, so it is extensive. And ultimately, this can be used for advocacy work as well. We can map the alignment of the principles against building and construction related policies at regional or national level. Next slide, please. So in my closing minute, I want to tell you about the 6 principles of the framework, the outcomes of our sector, and empower you to go away and learn a little more about this piece of work. Next slide, please. So you can now see on my screen the 6 principles of the framework. We have protect health, prioritize comfort, harmony with nature, the facilitation of healthy behaviors, the creation of social value, and taking climate action. But each of these high-level principles is an amalgamation of a number of topics that sit underneath it. We call these our sub-principles. Next slide, please. I would, of course, encourage you to look at the framework online and to digest all of this information in detail. But to pull out some of the key areas I think are most exciting and represent the biggest shift for our industry, I would encourage you to look at, first of all, protect health. We have areas that we understand that are well established: air quality, both indoor and outdoor, water quality, but mental and psychological health, an area that came out strongly from our consultation. And as we've all experienced through the COVID-19 pandemic, through being under lockdown in our various locations around the world, the impact of our indoor environment hugely impacts how we feel and behave on a daily basis. And of course, infectious disease is an incredibly relevant topic at the moment. The transmission of infectious disease, COVID-19 being the focus, but not the only example that we're talking about, is built into this work, is something we've added to as this current situation has unfolded. There are also well-established areas of health and well-being that many of us will be familiar with, things like different comfort indicators, from thermal to lighting, acoustic, ergonomic, to designing for nature, bringing in that biophilic design element, our connection with nature in and outdoors, and also biodiversity and nature-based solutions. How we can use the built environment both at a building level and an urban planning or master planning level to encourage positive behaviors and shape user behavior to make more healthy decisions. But for me, the principles 5 and 6, about the creation of social value at all stages of the life cycle, considering human rights in the supply chain, the mental and physical health of construction workers, and community health and social equity and value, are hugely important in areas we need to amplify within this sector. And finally, taking climate action. This is an incredible opportunity for us to take our narrative around battling climate change and put it through a lens of human health, and remind people that our actions against climate change, our work on advocating for net zero buildings, is ultimately to protect human health as well as protecting nature and the planet. and putting the narrative of climate change mitigation, but also adaptation and resilience into a social lens and reminding people that it's a personal issue. So of course, I would encourage you to go and have a look at the website for more information. Next slide, please. The outcomes for the sector and calls to action are as follows. Next slide. That human health, well-being and quality of life are impacted by social, economic and environmental factors. We can see that through the mapping against the Sustainable Development Goals. And hopefully you've seen that in the number of sub-principles I've just presented that range across all these areas of sustainability. Next slide. Another vitally important outcome from our research is that all people across the life cycle should have their health protected and enhanced. This brings us back to that equity conversation. Next slide. So the call to action that I leave you with today is that we implore the sector to consider the health, well-being and quality of life for all people who are impacted directly or indirectly by this sector. And we hope that this framework will be just one of the many tools that people can use to enhance awareness of how the building and construction sector can impact, but also improve and innovate in health and well-being in our buildings and cities and homes and schools and every other building we spend our time in. Next slide, please. So thank you very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to present to you all. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me personally. My details are on screen or through your local Green Building Council. Thank you very much for having me, and back to you now, Raghu. Thank you.
Thank you, Catriona. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Sorry for the small glitch at the initial stage in connecting to you, and you made the day look great. And thanks for the wonderful effort that has gone behind in preparing this presentation. And on behalf of the members of WorldGBC, it's my pleasure and honor to appreciate the hard work of everyone involved over the past year in developing the health and well-being framework. Now that we have an understanding of this new framework, I would like to take a moment to gather some input from our audience today. In a minute, we will launch a poll asking you which of the 6 principles within the WorldGBC health and well-being framework you identify as priorities for your country. You can select multiple principles if this is the case in your country. This will help you give us an idea of whether the growth opportunities within the Asia Pacific region are in regards to health and well-being in the built environment. Now, I would request the launch of the pool number 1. Tito, can you go ahead to the pool? Yeah, thank you. The pool is open for about 2 to 3 minutes. Tito, you can close the pool and you can announce the pool results, please. What are the views of the various council members? Friends, it will take just a few seconds for the system to calibrate and then to highlight. Thank you. We have the sharing of pool results. Almost everybody has preferred the first one. Protect and improve health, air quality, water quality, mental health, and infectious disease. I think that has been given the top priority. No doubt, in the present context, I think that's the dominating factor. In fact, all aspects are equally important. Thank you for sharing the pool. Thank you for communicating the results, Tito. Now, friends, let me switch over to the next session. In the next session, you will hear from representatives of two of the GBCs from the region who were heavily engaged in developing the global health and well-being framework. Now I invite Jorge Chapa, Head of Market Transformation at GBC Australia. Over to you, Jorge Chapa.
Thank you, Raghu. How are you doing? And thank you for inviting me here today to the launch of the Health and Wellbeing Framework from the Asia Pacific Network. I'm really excited to speak about why this framework really matters and why it's important to everyone, and why we should definitely consider it as a key leading document for the built environment. Now, as Raghu has said, my name is Jorge Chapa, Head of Market Transformation at the Green Building Council of Australia. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we are all gathered. In my case, the Gadigal of the Eora Nation are the traditional custodians of this place that we now call Sydney. And I'd like to take a few seconds to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. As Catriona mentioned, through the Better Places for People project, the WorldGBC network led a multi-year global consultation to redefine the scope of health and well-being in the built environment. And this really culminated in the creation of the WorldGBC's Health and Wellbeing Framework. What's exciting about this framework is that for the first time globally, we have an agreed high-level guidance tool for the real estate, building, and construction sector that seeks to redefine health and well-being to encompass the totality of human experience and more. I had the pleasure of being part of the steering committee that worked on creating this framework, and it was a genuine joy to participate and go through what eventually became a large journey to define what health and well-being for the built environment should be. It is very easy to think of health and well-being as the outcome that we want for building occupants to make them more productive. In fact, I guarantee you, and even WorldGBC and Green Building Council ourselves as well, the Green Building Council of Australia, we always place health and well-being and healthy buildings always within the parameters of making people more productive. How many times would you say that you've all heard that? You know, healthy buildings make for happy people, and happy people make for more productive people. And that's a genuine statement that we've all carried through for the better part of 20 years, since the green building movement started. And that's narrowing down the definition of the entirety of the human experiences to a very few small components, right? We talk about the productivity as being the end goal because most of our work has focused on office buildings. Or we talk about the end goal being people shopping more or things like that. And that's because we tended to narrow the question of health and well-being to a few key metrics in the green building movement space. Essentially, what do we, good ventilation, good lighting, low and non-toxic materials. That's been the core of how we frame things. But if you really think about it, there are way more participants in the conversation than just those occupying a building. And there is far more about health and well-being than the air we breathe, or how comfortable we are, or how much access to daylight we have. And I would say that particularly this past year, it's been very clear to us how our buildings affect our health in ways that we hadn't considered, and how the spaces surrounding our buildings can help us become healthier, and how much the rest of the environment impacts on how and who we are. So when we developed the framework, I like to say that we essentially created 3 key challenges for the built environment. Challenge number 1, buildings must work for everyone. It shouldn't be just about the occupants, but also for those that are making the buildings and those that are maintaining them. And we need to focus on the next challenge as well, which is how and what impact the building has on the community itself and the surrounding community, and how it shapes it and makes it more resilient. And the third challenge is how are buildings helping or hindering our urgent issues of climate change, resource depletion, and biodiversity. Think of those 3 challenges and look back to the framework that we've developed. And the 6 principles absolutely drive and meet the challenges that I've expressed. And these challenges are extremely important. I think it's safe to say that we can no longer say that a building is healthy because it is a comfortable building. Or we can't say that a building is healthy because it promotes active participation. The value of the framework has been that globally agreed consensus definition that to consider a building to drive health and well-being, it must have a holistic approach to the built environment. One of the things that I'm very proud of the framework is how it draws the line between health and well-being and people, all the way to net zero carbon buildings. It genuinely expresses that we cannot have one if we aren't resolving the other one. And that's why one of my favorite principles is Principle 6, take climate action. That, for what it's worth, is how we've been thinking about our approach to health and well-being here at GBCA as well. So allow me to take a few minutes to just talk about that. A few short weeks ago, we launched our revision to Green Star. It's called Green Star Buildings. If you follow anyone in Australia around the built environment, you would have heard about this. And the revision is significant. And when we started the revision, we followed a very parallel track to what was happening with the framework. And I will say that the development of the framework influenced what we did, and I'm dare say a little bit vice versa, because we started looking at the same things. We were looking at what it was to deliver and address the Sustainable Development Goals, which, let's face it, have a larger framing of health and well-being than just indoor environment quality. And we needed to address and look at what impacts existed and respond to the strategic goals of governments, tenants, investors, developers, and building owners. And without question, one of the things we came to recognize was that we needed to have and expand the focus from just a very narrow and limited definition of health and well-being that was specifically focused on the individual, to expand it to address issues around people and social sustainability. And we came to the recognition that we'd been focusing with a rating system on how much a building itself was good, not how good the building was in the place that it was located. And finally, we came to recognize that we needed to deal with, no matter what, issues of climate change as core to the question of health and well-being. And so in the case of Green Star, we introduced requirements for, sure, great indoor environment quality, but we also introduced requirements for net zero carbon buildings. And we introduced new aspects to the conversation in the built environment around social sustainability. For example, the diversity of construction sites that became one of the questions we wanted to resolve. It's a tiny thing, but it's genuinely important if you're trying to create a better place to be in. In other words, something as simple as providing personal protective equipment for women in construction sites will lead to better outcomes. And that goes on and on for a number of things. What have we found in return? We felt initially when we were expanding this in Green Star that we were going a step too far. Now, we internally were confident. We thought we were on the right track, especially as the framework developed. We could see that independent processes were going to the same end goal, that you couldn't separate health and well-being from these other questions, broader questions about the built environment. And one of the things that surprised us without question was how much our members and our users of Green Star are adopting what we've created and the larger definition of health and well-being that is much more powerful, much more comprehensive, and much more valuable to them than just the older way that we were thinking about the problem. It is genuinely very exciting to have been part of the journey of the Better Places for People Health and Wellbeing framework. The work that Catriona led and the rest of the steering committee and everyone involved is genuinely fantastic and deserves the time in the spotlight for you to read. We do believe that it's going to be a powerful tool for us to communicate why our ambitions around the built environment are as wide and broad as we think they should be. And as Raghu has mentioned, why you cannot separate one from the other, and you need to deal with them in a relevant and holistic manner. So that's all I have to say. I just want to thank you once again for inviting me to the launch. And Raghu, please take it back. It's all yours, and thank you very much for having me here today.
George, what a beautiful presentation you made. You articulated very beautifully. You highlighted excellently in terms of health and well-being being the most important aspect, and how healthy buildings leads to happier people, which is directly linked to the productivity and performance. I think it's extremely well articulated, very beautifully highlighted. Thanks, George. Thanks for the wonderful presentation. And thanks for sharing your insights.
Thank you.
Now let me change over my attention to Mr. S. Karthikeyan. You can call him Karthik. Karthik is from the Indian Green Building Council. I would like to invite Mr. S. Karthikeyan to share his perspective from India Green Building Council. Over to you, Mr. Karthikeyan.
Thank you very much, Sarvi. Very good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure and a privilege to discuss about the Indian experience on green and healthy building. And we are fortunate to be part of the initiative on developing the framework by the World Green Building Council. We thank you all for enriching our knowledge in terms of the green and healthy building as well. As part of this presentation, I'm planning to share our experience of facilitating green and healthy building in the last 3 years. We have initiated this concept in the year 2017 and 18 in India, and started working on developing a framework and also started implementing in close to about 15 to 18 buildings in India to adopt the concept of the green and healthy buildings. Before getting into what is this health and well-being? As per the definition of World Health Organization, the health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and it is not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So what World Health Organization says is it is not only about the health, physical health, the mental health as well as the social well-being also need to be taken into account. Globally, if you look at more than about 50% of the people, they are affected by the chronic non-communicable diseases. When we talk about chronic and non-communicable diseases, this is something like, cardiovascular diseases or cancer or respiratory diseases, diabetes, those kind of diseases which are not communicable, but at the same time, they are very chronic. The same is the case with India as well. If you look at the statistics from India, again, more than 50% of the people are affected by these chronic non-communicable diseases. And do they have a relationship to the environment where we live in? If you ask this question, yes, these all have got some direct or indirect implications on the health and well-being of the people. The environment has got a direct impact. Just to give an idea, how do we communicate with the surrounding? We all have 5 senses. Through our 5 senses, we communicate with our surrounding. We sense what is happening around us, and then that has got a direct impact on our health as well. When we talk about 5 senses, these are all like smell, taste, sight, touch, and sound. These 5 senses have got an impact on the physical well-being. Not only the physical well-being, it has got an impact on the emotional and intellectual as well as the social well-being. Ultimately, it has got an overall impact on the health and well-being of the individual. And it affects either positively or negatively, depending upon the kind of the parameters we maintain. So the idea is, if we can address those parameters which have got the impact on our health and well-being in the built environment, yes, obviously, we can address the health and well-being of the occupants in the building and ultimately enhance the quality of life of these occupants. So this is the relationship between the surroundings of the built environment as well as the health and well-being of the individual occupants. But how does that have a direct impact on the business? If it is a green and healthy workspace, since it is having a positive impact on the employee and the employee well-being, obviously the business performance also improve. The cognitive function will improve, the productivity level will improve. So the number of people going sick will come down, and obviously that will have a positive impact on the business performance. So when we are talking about green and healthy building, yes, it has got a direct impact on the business performance. Considering this, in India, what we have done is we started working on developing a framework and then started implementing the framework in the built environment. Because of want of time, I will just only highlight about how the parameters in the buildings have got a positive impact on the physical well-being. So obviously, you have also seen in the voting system, many people have started looking at the air quality, the water quality, etc. Those things have got a direct impact on the health and well-being of the individual. So as part of the physical well-being framework, we are addressing the indoor air quality, the quantity of water, as well as the quality of water one consumes, the nutritional enhancement. Those things have got a positive impact on the physical well-being. Apart from that, the comfort level of the individual in the built environment also need to be taken care, and the sanitation hygiene part of the built environment. So addressing these parameters have got a positive impact on the physical well-being of the individual. Many of these parameters are addressed in green building as well. Many a times when we go to the market, people start asking us, okay, is it a green building or it is a healthy building? So our argument is there is nothing called separately green building or healthy building. These are two sides of the same coin. You need to be green, at the same time, you need to be healthy. So many of these parameters, if you look at, they are also partly addressed in green, apart from the resource efficiency. What we are trying to do is we need to go one step further in terms of enhancing the well-being of the occupants. Just to look at the comfort parameters. See, in generally green building, people tend to address the thermal comfort to a large extent. But what we are trying to say is addressing the thermal comfort alone is not sufficient. We need to look at other aspects of the comfort. For an example, the visual comfort, the acoustics, the olfactory comfort, the ergonomics. These things have got a larger impact on the human health and well-being. So we are trying to address all those aspects as part of the built environment, which will ultimately enhance the physical well-being as well. So just to highlight some of the key features of the green and healthy building. See, for example, the photographs, what you are seeing, these are the actual implementations in Indian green and healthy buildings. The space they are working during the daytime as well as during the evening time, they should have sufficient comfort in terms of the visual as well as the ergonomics, the acoustics part, and also the kind of indoor environment quality they maintain. In one of the buildings in India, you won't believe, there are about 8,000 plants within the building space, which enhances the indoor air quality. This improves the biodiversity of the whole built environment as well. In addition to that, the kind of, the connect we create between the individual and the built environment, this enhances the emotional as well as the social well-being. In addition to that, there are features related to, improving the fitness and nourishment and also the better connectivity to the people. All these will ultimately contribute to the productivity, the creativity, as well as the talent retention within the organization. So just to highlight, in a building, typically we look at this way. What are the major costs involved? If you look at 100% of the cost, the energy and maintenance costs hardly contribute for about 2 to 3%. Of course, in green buildings, we address this. The rental cost is quite significant in India as well, especially in metro cities, it is going up further. What is the major portion? If you look at, more than about 85 to 90% is on account of the human resource, the employees. How are we going to address this? The challenge with respect to the healthy building is how these concepts are going to make an impact on the cost related to the human resource. There are a lot of studies that are going on. In fact, from India GBC, we are also part of the world studies. We have been part of the study that has been taken by the Harvard Chan School in terms of establishing the relationship between the cognitive function of the individual vis-a-vis the built environment. We have been doing this input, studies for almost about 6 months, giving inputs to the overall aspects related to the built environment, as well as the kind of the physical wellness we are maintaining. The study is still on, and we are expecting the results before the end of this year. So we are all keenly awaiting for the results. The second study, what we have taken is with the support of Danish Industri, and we have chosen buildings to establish and demonstrate the impact of green and healthy buildings on business performance. This study also we have taken up. The ultimate aim is to demonstrate that yes, the green and healthy building concepts have got a positive impact on the business performance as well. Many businesses, they have started realizing the positive impact, but the question is, this needs to be scientifically proven. Obviously, we are hoping that these studies are going to scientifically prove these concepts. Friends, to conclude, the building environment certainly has the direct and indirect impact on the health and well-being of the occupants. The green and healthy building, they are not two different aspects. These are the two sides of the same coin. They need to go together. The people-centric approach is the key for addressing both the issues. Benefits are being realized by many of the building owners. We are able to physically see this in Indian industry because a lot of customers who have adopted the healthy building concepts, they started coming back to us for implementing the same in some of the other buildings in their own organization. So the efforts are on in terms of scientifically proving the benefits of the healthy building concepts. Very soon we would be able to prove this, and this is going to be the future. The building need not be only green, they need to be healthy, and it is ultimately meant for the people who live in the building. So with these words, thank you again for the opportunity given to us, and it's our pleasure to share our experience. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Karthik. Thank you for your succinct presentation, and you succinctly highlighted Indian ethos, the way we address the health through the 5 senses, how we communicate through the 5 senses, and how we blend with the surroundings. This was very excellently and eloquently articulated. You also very brilliantly brought out how through the 5 senses we have an impact on the physical, emotional, and the social well-being. through the surroundings, how the surroundings impact from this perspective. And the last slide was a very clearly highlighted the importance that we should need to give in the building. That the people cost inside the building or the occupants cost and the salaries associated with that, that is 90% of the overall cost and where the importance should be. And that has been very succinctly and very beautifully articulated in your presentation. In a very good way, both George's presentation and your presentation blended very well. It also highlights how the local thinking fully blends with the thinking of the World Green Building Council and how globally good people think alike, whichever part of the world they are. Thank you, Karthik. Thank you for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you, sir.
With this, now we switch over to launching of pool number 2. And over to you, Tito, for showing the second pool. Friends, the second pool is ready. You take about 2 minutes to address the questions. Tito, you can close the pool and kindly show the results, please, when it's ready. We'll just take a few seconds to show the pool results. So thank you, Tito. As always, I think all the members have selected different aspects. And we have almost 65% of the people have given importance to training and education for professionals. I think, and that's always a very, very important start. And the second important thing is to create awareness raising campaigns and messages for end users. I think both go hand in hand. I think this is what the priority for each one of the councils are. And we in World Green Building Council and Asia Pacific Network will be very closely working with all the individual councils of the Asia Pacific Network to achieve these 2 objectives and other objectives as well. Thank you, Tito. Thank you very much. And now, friends, we go to the next portion of this today's program. We go into the insights from the region. And this is the final item in the agenda. We have invited few health and well-being experts from across our network to answer a few questions that will help us further understand the local and regional context of health and well-being across Asia Pacific. For our first question, which of the 6 principles within the health and well-being framework do you identify as a priority for your country? I will invite Dr. Shehzad, President, ProHealth Pakistan, and Engineer CK Tang for their insights. I would request Dr. Shehzad, please go ahead. Which of the 6 principles within the health and well-being framework do you identify as a priority for your country? Over to you, Dr. Shehzad.
Thank you very much. My brief introduction is, sorry for my throat. My brief introduction is I'm Dr. Shehzad LEGHARI. I'm a medical doctor by profession and a hospital designer for the last 30 years. I design hospitals and hospital buildings, healthcare buildings. So, and main main areas that we need to address in our country are basically, one of the major is the air quality and the water. These are the two major issues that are facing that we are facing right now. I mean, we have buildings, we have don't have much green buildings. That is another area where we want to have some as the recent just it was said that the training of the professionals is much more important for this part of the world. We need to train the professionals to give us good environment, and unfortunately these in the developing world there is more of a knee-jerk responses from everybody, and they try and address the issues as they arise, but nobody looks at the future and design their environment for the future. So for us, it's mainly basically the health environment that needs to improve in Pakistan and in our part of the world. If we see that right now we in this endemic and in this pandemic, we somehow, I don't know how it was divine intervention that we were saved and had very low incidence of the disease, but it's now picking up again, and it's now being made worse by the smog and all the environment that we have right now, and this will cause major problem than COVID, I think, and this will make the disease worse and the diagnosis and treatment difficult. So it's the air quality right now that we need to focus on, and the water quality as well, and the water conservation. And water conservation is that we don't have any I mean, I can say for this country, and I can assume for the similar countries, that the focus on the conservation of water and the reuse of water is not there, and we are just wasting water and not conserving water. That is the main areas that we need to work on before we go on to the building. Yes, buildings are important, but they only cater to but 30% of the population that lives in the urban areas where we need to have green buildings. But in the rural area, the people are more connected to the environment, so they have lesser problem of green buildings and everything than what the urban people have. So the design of the building, design of the green building is important, definitely important, but it's only, as I said, looks after, it caters to lesser population than the larger population, for which the air quality and the water quality is more important than a built environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. LEGHARI. Thank you very much. You beautifully articulated the design principles and in terms of air quality and the water quality. And we are very glad to hear from the hospital expert to share your thoughts. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. LEGHARI. Now, may I request Mr. CK Tang, and I welcome your perspective, CK. CK, unmute yourself. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Okay. Now you can hear me, right?
Yes, CK, go ahead.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Raghu. And thank you, Dr. Restari. I agree with you very much on the need for air quality and water quality improvement, especially in India and places like Malaysia as well. So I'm CK Tang. I'm speaking from a perspective of Malaysia. Personally, for me, the most important thing for me personally is actually air quality. Okay, improvement in air quality reduces sick leave and prevents death. What can be more important than that, right? However, in terms of national view, I have to pick thermal comfort as our #1 priority, namely because of economic advantage it can offer. Improvement in thermal comfort improves productivity. The economic value of 1% improvement in productivity is worth more than 100% reduction of energy in a building. Thermal comfort outdoor encourages us to take public transportation, which we need desperately in a nation like Malaysia, where we are taking cars from door to door. There's a huge multiplier effect from people taking public transport in a nation like Malaysia. There will be less carbon emission from the use of private cars. Walking from station to home is a very good form of exercise. Studies have shown that even a little bit of exercise a day has a huge benefit to our health. Walking from station to homes creates a catchment for local businesses where small businesses will thrive. You know, it's a local economy. Buying groceries from local neighborhood stores for our daily need will reduce food wastages of buying weeks of food and then eating only half, with the other half going to landfills. In Malaysia, our landfills are 50% organic waste. A lot of food is thrown out. And walking from station to home also provides opportunities for social interactions. We will talk to the small business owners. We will meet our neighbors. Social interaction improves our mental health. Finally, thermal comfort outdoors encourage outdoor activities, gardening, cycling, walking, jogging, hiking, kids playing outdoors instead of being stuck to their handphones. So in summary, improving thermal comfort has a huge multiplier effect in Malaysia. Basically, higher productivity, less carbon emission, reduced waste to landfill, more exercises, improving our physical health, more social interaction, improving our mental health. And most importantly, it is a catalyst for local economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, CK. Thank you for stressing on the thermal comfort. That 1% improvement leads to almost 10 times more benefit or 100 times more benefit. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now, I would like to ask from a practical perspective, how can this global framework be used to advance the health and well-being priorities in your country? And this is the question I'll be posing to Phan, Wang, to both of them. First, let me welcome Phan. Please share your insights.
Hello, good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me here. My name is Phan Thu Hang. I am the Country Technical and Sustainability Director from Saint-Gobain, Vietnam. Saint-Gobain, as you know, is a building material manufacturer. And I am also the chair of local Vietnam Green Building Council here. So to answer your question, in Vietnam, generally, we can see international players, investors, developer, consultants are more aware and are more advanced regarding the sustainability issue. But we see that from end user point of view, more and more demands on health and wellness, and especially after the COVID. And we know that people do care a lot about their own health and well-being, especially when they are told what the benefits are. And Saint-Gobain have been in partnership with the World Green Building Council for the Better Place for People projects. And since then, we developed our concept and solutions around the multi-comfort concept, which concentrates on occupants' need for comfort and well-being. So what constitutes the multi-comfort? We believe that feeling good in a building is about having a good amount of light, the proper level of sound, the ideal temperatures together with the good indoor air quality, besides safety. So it's very similar to what has been stated by the delegate from India. So we see similar concept for multi-comfort here. So as the largest building manufacturer here, that's how we design our solution, and we provide a solution to make the building good for human health and beneficial also for natural environment. In Vietnam, we provide many solutions from glass for facades to interior ceiling, wall, and floor system that can contribute to the concept of multi-comfort. And our new product development process is also focused on this direction. So for example, this year we launched antibacterial ceiling tiles and also the special type of board that can absorb the formaldehyde from the air ambient. So I can see there are a lot of concern for air quality, and so does we as a manufacturer. And these new products are perfectly fit into the protect health principle. Other solutions like thermal insulation for building envelope or energy efficient renovation help saving energy will not only bring the health and financial benefit, but also help address the climate change. So at the same time, we act in several principles. Prioritize comfort for building user for sure, protect and improve health, and also take climate action principles. And I think for Vietnam, principles such as prioritize comfort and protect and improve health would be a quick start because they are user-centric and easier to communicate the benefit across the stakeholder groups. The other principles may take a bit longer time to integrate into the local framework or policy standards or educational system. And this framework is a very good framework, and it combines all three global chains stated by the World Green Building Council before. And it needs to be used by actors across the value chains in construction sector to be really effective. Thank you. Thank you for having me sharing a practical prospect from a manufacturer point of view. And from the local Green Building Council point of view, we see this is a very good framework, and surely we will adapt it into our local practice here.
Thank you, Phan, for sharing the manufacturer's perspective, as well as the perspective from Vietnam Building Council. Now, I would request Mr. Wang to kindly go ahead, please. Wang, over to you. Kindly unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes,
The same question?
Yeah, same question. Please go ahead from a practical perspective.
Hello?
Yeah. From the practical perspective, how can this global framework be used to advance the health and well-being priorities in your country, China?
Hello, Mr. Lango. Long time no see you. Ladies and gentlemen, nice to meet you all. I'm very glad to participate in this event, and also more than delighted to see that we have made an international consensus on the health effect of built environment. The 6 principles conducted by WorldGBC provide the path for users, engineers, and related stakeholders to take actions. In terms of this question, I think that there are 3 aspects. The first is educating and training. Users, designers, and all stakeholders need to be educated to learn the health threats in the built environment. Secondly is research on solutions, comprehensive health-oriented solutions in different scenarios. I think that the intelligent innovation of solutions are most necessary. The third is assessment and communication, assessing the performance scientifically. A specific health well-being building system that suits the nation's condition needs to be developed on the guidance of the health and the well-being framework. In China, the healthy building standard was started from 2016. Also, the health and comfort is one of the 5 categories of the National Green Building Standard, which is also in line with the 6 principles through our water, comfort, exercise, humanity, and service. The core value is designing, constructing, and managing the built environment by considering the user's physical, mental, and social well-being for all ages and all aspects and full lifetime. In China, the assessment standard for healthy community and healthy town are issued to cover a broad area beyond indoor environment. In terms of buildings with specific function, for example, healthy hospital, healthy hotel, healthy old age care building, healthy school, and healthy sports building, related standards are under development, maybe will be issued next year. The other important standard is assessment standard for healthy retrofitting of existing residential area to resolve the health risk problem in the process of urban renewal. A well-covered standard system provides solutions for housing and urban-rural construction in China. Based on the standard system, the healthy building floor area in China has exceeded more than 10 million square meters, which covered more than 20 provinces in China. The first 9 healthy communities are assessed just 2 weeks ago. Large-scale construction attract more attention on health and the built environment. So far, there are already more than 20 leading real estate companies announced healthy strategy in China. We can see that COVID-19 dramatically changes the recognition of health and well-being and significantly raises the awareness of healthy building and green building, which will effectively contribute to advancing the health and well-being priorities. Let's take actions together. China GBC already has taken actions. We translate the health and well-being framework into Chinese today. The English version and the Chinese version launch simultaneously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wang. Thank you for sharing his perspective and your focus on the first step on the education training. And you made a detailed elaboration how China is taking lead in terms of healthy buildings. Thank you, Wang.
Thank you.
Now, I switch over to the last 2 panelists, and the most important one is we have Miss Grace from Green Building faculty member from Hong Kong. And I would request her to go ahead and share one innovative solution in your country on one of the 6 principles that have been highlighted. Grace, over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Grace Kwok from AEC Group and have been working as environmental and sustainability consultant for more than 20 years. I'm also a Green Building faculty member of Hong Kong Green Building Council. Joining from Hong Kong today, I'd like to talk a bit about some key milestones along our journey to improve air quality from outdoor to indoor, which advances the principle to protect and improve health in the WorldGBC Health and Wellbeing Framework. First and foremost, cross-border collaboration between Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau to tackle the regional air quality problem. Back in 2013, the Environment Bureau of Hong Kong released a Clean Air Plan for Hong Kong, which outlines a comprehensive set of air quality improvement policies and measures, including cooperation with Guangdong to improve air quality of the Pearl River Delta region, now referred to as the Greater Bay Area. In this connection, both governments of Guangdong and Hong Kong have set out specific regional emission reduction targets to tackle air pollution problem. As a result, the regional air quality has been improved since. Over the years, the annual average level of sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and PM10, as measured by the Regional Air Quality Monitoring Network, have decreased significantly. However, the level of ozone increased during the same period, indicating that the photochemical smog problem in the region has yet to be resolved. To address this challenge, concerted efforts shall be made to further reduce NO2 and VOCs, as these two pollutants are responsible for ground-level ozone formation. Secondly, in terms of air quality management in Hong Kong, there has been a transition from pollution prevention approach to health-based approach, since the air pollution index was replaced by the Air Quality Health Index in late 2013. The Air Quality Health Index, AQHI, which is reported hourly, informs the citizens of the short-term health risk of air pollution so that they could take precautionary measures to protect the health. There is also AQHI forecast, which serve to alert any onset of serious air pollution episodes. Furthermore, efforts have been made by public and private sectors to improve indoor air quality as well. Since 2003, we have implemented a voluntary indoor air quality certification scheme for offices and public places. Through a two-level IAQ objectives, excellent class and good class, the scheme assesses IAQ of premises, and the annual certification provides incentives for building owners or property management to pursue the highest level of IAQ. The government also takes the lead to require all new government buildings to achieve excellent class and existing government buildings to achieve good class. BEAM Plus, the local green building rating system in Hong Kong, has also recognized the IAQ certification scheme and adopted the good class IAQ objectives as indoor air quality criteria in the health and well-being category. Back to the question, let me introduce an innovative solution we have used to protect and improve health using technology. In June last year, Hong Kong University of Science and Technologies Institute for the Environment launched a mobile app that lets users monitor air quality to reduce the exposure to air pollution. Praise Hong Kong, which stands for Personalized Real-Time Air Quality Informatics System for Exposure, provide real-time air quality and health risk information and forecast. The app uses emission data, atmospheric model, vehicle activity data, traffic model, health assessment, and artificial intelligence to provide a high-resolution outdoor air quality map, down to street level, with accuracy exceeding 90%, and also provide forecasts for the next 48 hours. For the next phase, it intends to have full integration of personal exposure by analyzing both outdoor and indoor air pollution levels, including inside buildings or commuting. In the coming year, users can submit the physical symptom status related to air pollution through the app. The data will be analyzed and used for creating a personal pollution risk profile, generating health prediction alerts when the app thinks you should choose a cleaner air route. With a strong policy foundation, multi-sector collaboration, and technology advancement, we believe that we are on the right track to improve health through our continued efforts to enhance both outdoor and indoor air quality. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you for sharing your experience from Hong Kong in terms of indoor air quality improvement.
Thank you.
Now, I request John to share his experience in terms of innovative solution from your country. Over to you, John.
Yes, thank you. I would like to share what is the innovation of the Green Building Indonesia for handling this 6 principle of World Green Building concept. First, last month, that the Green Building Indonesia is working with the Jakarta government to establish the net zero health school. Why they choose this net zero health school? Because we believe by giving the knowledge to the student from the early stage, like primary school up to secondary and high school, it makes them aware about this health and well-being. And the second thing, and with the current pandemic condition, people realize that health is the most important thing. Therefore, we are going to use the ventilation to increase the fresh air inside the room. Nowadays in Indonesia, a lot of schools, they converted to use the air conditioning. And most of those air conditioning, they use the residential air conditioning without ventilation air conditioning. This will affect the health inside the school. Therefore, in this net zero health school, we are going to introduce a new approach using the natural ventilation and mechanical ventilation, and third one, the triple hybrid system, the natural ventilation, mechanical ventilation, and the doors, to introduce the ventilation with the conditioned air. By using this approach, we expect that they have well knowledge, and this knowledge from the student will spread it to their house and to the parents, and the parents can go up to the office and to our surrounding. And the reason is because started from next year, almost 100 schools is going to be built by the Jakarta government. And another 100 school is renovated. So this is become a very, very big spread all over the world, all over Indonesia, because Jakarta is the capital of Indonesia. On top of that, we are going to emphasize the human hygiene, and for the school to increase the awareness of their health. And also, we are going to set up the microclimates surrounding the building to increase the nature for the health of the people inside the house. So all of this one here, we are going to set up some the guideline or standard in order to make the people as the contractor, they have to follow all these guideline or standard when they build the school in the Jakarta. So this is, I think, awareness for the early state of the people so that it can spread out all Indonesia very quickly. That is some innovation, what the Green Building Indonesia have done. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That is a great news from Indonesia. And you beautifully articulated in terms of you are starting for the young in mind. You are taking care of the children and education in schools and healthy schools. That's a great way to go. And you take care of the young one, the future is already taken care. And the great news is that you are looking for about 100 green schools to come and healthy schools to come. Well done. Congratulations to Indonesia. Thank you. Now, I am fully aware of we have exceeded the time. And now I request Cary Chan, the co-chair of the Asia Pacific Network of the World Green Building Council of APN, to kindly address and do the concluding remarks. Over to you, Cary.
Thank you, Raghu. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Asia Pacific Regional Network of World Green Building Council, I would like to thank you all for joining this Health and Wellbeing Framework launching event. I would like to thank all prominent speakers for providing their great ideas, sharing their experience relating to health, well-being, and quality of life. And your participation in and attendance to this event is extremely valuable. The framework is a result of the committee's hard work throughout a 2 years very complicated global consultation, redefining the scope and health of well-being. But yet, as you can see, the outcome is a framework that is so comprehensive, so clear, and simple to understand, to communicate, and to act on. On that, I must congratulate all those who have involved in the study and production of this framework for their marvelous and far-reaching work. However, I must add that the task may perhaps have ended, but not the responsibility for championing the health and well-being in the built environment. But the good news is that from now on, this responsibility will be shared by all of us based on their good work. What COVID-19 has taught us is that nothing will end, nothing will go away. From smallpox, avian flu, SARS, to now COVID-19. No one will know what will be coming tomorrow, along with its impacts. The framework helps us to develop a resilient built environment, which is extremely important for our long-term sustainability. So we should start using the framework in diverse ways, which is intended for use by all actors across the building and construction life cycle. There will be challenges we need to face in all cities and countries of the region. However, we can overcome the challenges by working together. And I sincerely hope that the framework we launched and the knowledge and insight we share here will continue to galvanizing the desired action and cross-border collaboration within the Asia-Pacific region. There is a saying from Confucius, a very famous Chinese philosopher, written some 2,000 years ago. And it comes with heavy responsibility and a long path to go. This saying is commonly used as encouragement to those who will be taking on very heavy responsibility. And I would like to use this saying to encourage all to take up the responsibility to champion the ambitious transformation. Again, thank you all for those participating today to this event, and my heartfelt congratulations to all that have contributed to the delivery of the framework. Thank you.
Thank you, Cary. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tito. Thank you, Nelly. Thanks, Dom. And thanks, Catriona, and all the speakers. And with this, we formally close the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Tito, have you stopped the recording?